Welcome to The Explainer. The race for AI dominance is always moving, right? But what if I told you one company just took a massive leap ahead of everyone else? Well, a new report is saying exactly that, and we're going to break down what it means for all of us.
Okay, so let's dive right in. We're looking at a brand new report from a group called Virtualization Options LLC. They're a tech research and advisory firm based out of Colorado, and they're making a pretty bold claim that they've identified the new king of the hill in AI. So, what did they find? And more importantly, why should you care? All right, but before we jump into what's new, let's just quickly set the stage. To really get what's happening, we need to be on the same page about the foundation of all this, and that's large language models, or as you probably know them, LLMs.
And just to be clear, we're not talking about your standard computer software here. Think of LLMs as these massive, complex brains. They're neural networks that have been fed just a staggering amount of text from the internet, from books, from everywhere. The whole point is for them to learn and mimic human language. Honestly, they're the engine driving this whole AI revolution we're living through.
And the pace of change here, it's just been mind-blowing. I mean, look at this. We went from models with about 100 million parameters to models with 175 billion in just 2 years. That's not just growth, that's an explosion. And that explosion is what set the stage for the hyper-competitive AI race we're seeing today.
Okay, so who have been the big names on the block? You know, up until now, the AI world has really felt like this clash of titans, with each major player kind of carving out their own territory.
Yeah, you've got your main contenders. There's Anthropic's Claude, which has always been about playing it safe, focusing on ethics with its constitutional AI thing. Then you have Google's Gemini, which is just everywhere. It's the powerhouse that's plugged into everything Google. You've also got Grok from xAI, which is really the developer's favorite, all about being open and letting you tweak things. And of course, the whole open source scene like Llama and Mistral for people who want total control. Everybody kind of had their own corner of the market.
But this is where things get interesting. That report from Virtualization Options, it's basically sounding the alarm that the game has completely changed. They analyzed OpenAI's GPT-5, which dropped on August 7, 2025, and their conclusion is pretty clear. This isn't just another upgrade, it's a whole new standard.
So what's its secret sauce? Well, it's all about how it's built. It's got this revolutionary hybrid design. See, instead of having one giant model that tries to do everything, GPT-5 is smarter. It has what they call a dynamic router. Think of it like a super intelligent traffic cop for your questions. It instantly figures out what you're asking and sends it to the perfect specialist model. Simple question, it goes to a quick small model. A really tough problem, it sends it to a deep thinking model. The result? It's insanely powerful but also really, really efficient.
And that clever design leads to some seriously game-changing abilities. The report goes on and on about its coding skills, which they say are just unmatched. It can also act like an agent, handling these long, complicated tasks with lots of steps. And maybe one of the biggest deals, it's much less likely to just make stuff up, hallucinate. It's about 26% better on that front than its predecessor.
Okay, let's put some numbers to this. Check this out. The report put its coding skills to the test with something called SWE Bench. Now, this is a brutally difficult benchmark that uses real-world software problems. And GPT-5? It nailed a 74.9% success rate. That's not just an improvement, that's a whole different league.
And we're not just talking about abstract test scores. This is having a real impact right now. The report quotes developers who are already using it, and they're talking about a fundamental shift in how they work. One senior developer at Cursor said, and I'm quoting here, "What used to take days now takes hours." That's just wow.
But it's not just for coders. The performance jump is showing up in other really critical fields too. The report also took a deep dive into another high-stakes area, healthcare.
So, they put it up against this tough benchmark for complex medical reasoning called HealthBench Hard, and it scored a 46.2%. Now, that might not sound like 100%, but in this field, it's a massive step forward compared to what came before.
And here's where it gets really practical. When they put it in the hands of actual doctors and medical professionals, an incredible 87% of its answers were rated as appropriate and helpful. That's a huge vote of confidence from the experts.
So what does that mean for the real world? Well, it meant that doctors and nurses reported spending 63% less time on paperwork and research. That's a huge chunk of their day freed up to do what they actually need to do, take care of patients.
Okay, so we've established GPT-5 is a beast, but how does it stack up against the competition now? The report gives us a really nice head-to-head comparison, so let's check that out.
Yeah, looking at this table, the picture becomes really clear, doesn't it? GPT-5 is just setting new records all over the place. Look at the context window. That's basically its short-term memory. It's more than double GPT-4. And that state-of-the-art label for coding strength, well, we've already seen what that means. It's really redrawn the map.
So what this really boils down to is a difference in philosophy, which gives you a clearer choice. If what you need is just the absolute best performance, the peak of what AI can do today, especially for coding and tough problems, all the signs in this report point to GPT-5. But if you're in an industry where safety and being harmless and honest is the absolute #1 priority, Claude's entire design philosophy still makes it a super strong contender.
Okay, so this is all great, but let's bring it back down to earth. What does this actually mean for you? When you sit down at your computer, how do you pick the right tool for what you need to do?
Well, it really comes down to the right tool for the right job. This chart from the report lays it out perfectly. If your task is heavy-duty coding or requires some deep thinking, GPT-5 is now your frontrunner. If you're dealing with something where you absolutely cannot afford mistakes, like in a regulated field, Claude is your go-to. And if your life basically runs on Google products, Gemini's integration is still unbeatable.
And that's why the report suggests that for a lot of us, the best strategy isn't to just pick one and stick with it. It's about building a toolkit. You might use GPT-5 to build your software, have Claude handle your customer service chats, and use Gemini to organize your team's workflow. It's about using each one for what it does best.
So what's the big final takeaway here? It's actually pretty simple. Yeah, GPT-5 is the new champion today. But the real story, the thing we should all be paying attention to, is that the pace of change in AI isn't just fast anymore, it's accelerating. And what that means for us is that picking one team and sticking with it is probably a bad idea. Being flexible is everything right now. The most critical thing you can do is stay curious, keep learning, and be ready to adapt, because these tools are just going to keep getting better and changing in ways we can't even predict.
And that's our look into the Virtualization Options LLC report and the new state of AI. The board has been reset, the pieces are moving faster than ever. It really just leaves one question, doesn't it? With AI evolving this fast, what problem will you solve first? Thanks for joining us.